All right, welcome to a special episode of the Lift Heavy Swing Fast podcast. I've got the founders of UpSwing Golf, Justin and Kevin, and we're going to talk about an amazing product that they are launching in the world of junior golf. So, Justin and Kevin, welcome to the show, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, so just to kick it off here, I want you guys just give us a quick breakdown of what UpSwing is, what you guys are doing, and just tell us all about you guys.
Yeah. So, thanks for having us. Pretty exciting times for us. UpSwing Golf is a premium adaptable junior golf line. So what we have developed was we basically came up with this system that allows clubs to grow with the golfer. We've got premium materials that you get your little guy. It's Elliot up there above me. That's kind of where the idea came from. I was looking for a set of golf clubs. Obviously, I've got a bit of a golf problem. Probably played way too much back in the day. Now kids, it's tough to play. But I was looking for clubs for them. And, it was just it was difficult because I know the game of golf and I wanted something quality, but I also didn't know if he was going to be into it like me. So I was kind of looking for, what are my options? Kevin's an old hockey buddy of mine. I've known him for years and years, and him being in the golf industry as a club designer and all that for some big name companies. I reached out to him and I said, "Hey, Kev, what should I be looking at?" And so he gave me a few different club companies to look at. And I was going through looking at them. You had, low cost, low quality, or, good quality, but really high cost. And I was thinking man, what if there was something in between? So I started looking and I really couldn't find anything. And so, being an old hockey guy, they used to have interchangeable blades that would go in a shaft. So if you broke a blade or a shaft, you could just swap it out, or if you outgrew it, right? Because usually when you're a kid, you didn't break too many shafts, you just outgrew them. So that's kind of where the idea came in. I was like, what if we had golf clubs with interchangeable shafts? So when Elliot outgrows a set, I'm not in for a whole nother purchase, but maybe, keep some familiarity and some confidence. So I called Kevin and I said, "Hey, has anybody ever done this, interchangeable shafts for club heads?" And he said, "No, I can't believe nobody's done it." And I said, "Well, can it be done?" And he goes, "Yep." And that was the origination of golf.
That's what I was flying home from the PGA Show in 23, I think, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so we're 2.5 years. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I remember thinking there's definitely adjustable drivers, right? And I think we saw there's a few companies that did it in the junior space, but the cool part of what we basically cascaded over the whole set, where it wasn't a super crazy, off the wall idea. It just needed to be implemented, right? Any entrepreneur will say, they went through that path of the work and all the things, we'll touch on probably here shortly, but how many guys are like, "Man, I had that idea," or this is, I remember writing this down on a napkin or something. It's like, well, there's a lot more work to it than getting it off of pen and paper, right? So no, yeah, thanks for sure for having us. Justin and I, he mentioned we're hockey buddies, and I'm pretty sure you guys met in elementary. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I've been, on the world of online social media. Instagram is how I've met a lot of people. But Justin is someone I actually know from real human life. We went to high school together. So we got paired together, how we kind of reconnected at a fundraiser for our high school golf team. And we got put together on a team, did a little scramble out at Oaks Country Club, which is just a few miles down the street from my house. So it's really cool to reconnect with Justin. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm doing this golf thing." I was like, "I do a golf thing too." Let's let's see what we can do together. And then, we got on the phone, and then Justin said, "You guys are going to the PGA Show." I was like, I want to go to the PGA Show too. And he was like, "Well, I got an extra ticket." And then next thing I know, I applied for the, social media influencer thing that I got to go to as well. So it was really a lot of fun. And then that's where I met you. And yeah, Justin and I go way back. High school was for me I'm having my 20-year reunion this year. So we go way back.
Wait, so okay, Cody, he's not South Lake. What was it? Keller? Or where did you go to high school, Justin? I
No,
forgot.
Jinx in Tulsa. So
So
when I was in Dallas, I went to Coppell just during the season.
okay. I was
Yeah.
like, Cody, I was like, I didn't think you were a Texas guy. So okay. Yeah, that
No.
makes
No,
sense. I
Cody,
gotcha. Yeah.
I was actually thinking about this the other day. Did you not go? Did you go to elementary school at Jinx too?
Yeah, Jinx West.
That's right. So I went to Jinx West. You're a grade older than me. So
Yeah.
in reality, I started there in
Man, that's
kindergarten.
wild.
Yeah.
So I don't really want to date us, but I mean, I think it's like 30 plus years. We were in
Yeah.
the same schools, and it's pretty
Hey,
crazy how
I
each
turned
cross paths.
40 in 3 days, so you have no room
Oh,
to
man.
talk on dating yourself right
Not far
now.
behind you, Kev.
Yeah,
I
I just
know.
signed up the tickets for my 20-year reunion this year. So, but yeah, it's just so cool that Justin and I, because one of our mutual friends, she wrote me, she's like, "Hey, you should link up with Justin Giles. He's doing this. He's doing these golf kids clubs." And so I sent her back the picture of us uh, at the PGA show. I was like, "Oh, you
Yeah,
mean I should link up with this guy?
This guy,
This guy right here?" Yeah.
That's
So,
man.
yeah. So, there's a little bit of our, Justin and I's background of actually knowing each other, but tell me a little bit more about, just you guys and, like your background and then what got you to where you guys are today. I mean, I know you guys are hockey buddies, but like what put you in the position that you're in right now to launch this company that I think is, and you guys obviously agree, is going to be huge.
it's certainly kind of shaping up that way. We've the PGA show, which we can talk about, if you want to, just that definitely put us on the map. But so you obviously know this, Cody, but I grew up playing hockey. So I left home at 16 and went and played in Dallas for the Stars AAA team. Played there for a few years, and then I ended up playing a couple of years in Canada and Alaska. Played some college hockey, an ATO for the Oilers in Tulsa there. But we, simultaneously, right? My dad was an attorney, and so when I would come home in the off seasons, I had two options, right? I could file paperwork that his paralegals didn't want to, and I couldn't read his chicken scratch, so it drove me nuts. Or I could basically like walk around in the mall. You remember those days when they were like, "Hey, you want to sell jeans at whatever,
Oh, yeah.
Abercrombie or whatever?"
Yeah.
So I got sucked into that for like a week, got 2 pairs of free jeans. I'm like, yeah, this isn't for me. So I basically, from there, I was like, all right, I want to do something kind of in the off season. It's a little more kind of entrepreneurial. And so I started a parking lot striping company. Do you remember that at all, Cody?
No, I don't.
You might not have. So I started this thing basically just with a straight board, a 4-inch roller, a bucket of paint. I just started knocking on doors. I was 18 when I started it.
That's
And
awesome.
then I was able to actually I built it up quite a bit. Had it for about 7 years, and then I was able to do it in the off seasons, which then when I'd go away to play hockey, I would just sub out jobs or run my crews remotely. And if I had an off weekend, I'd go back home, do a big job, and then I'd go back to college or whatever. And so I did that for a while, and then I was able to actually sell it. So I got pretty lucky there. It was like I was either going to be in for the rest of my life, or this was the time, to get rid of it. So luckily, I made that decision, moved on, and then I got into medical device sales.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent 13 years in that, about a little over a decade in more of the leadership aspect and running sales teams and all that kind of stuff. And then then UpSwing got going and went full time about 2 months ago, or about a month ago, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Around there.
it's been a wild ride, so kind of all over the place. But Kevin's the club designer and guru, and he's got a pretty awesome story. And so go ahead, Kev.
Yeah, like I kind of echoed a little bit of Justin's history from a hockey perspective. And I was 16, about the same when I went to Canada to play some junior hockey for a couple of years. I remember taking like minimal classes online to graduate from my high school in McKinney. And, I was able to go to prom and do all that fun stuff. So it wasn't like full, disconnection. But played hockey 16, 18 for juniors, went to college for 4 years. That's where I got my engineering degree, kind of when, the saddest day for a hockey player, and you're like, man, I'm not going to make it to the big show. And like, now what do I do? Right. So I knew I had a passion for like how things work. And that's from playing with Legos at a, young age. And my dad, very like scientific, reasoning, kind of how things work. And that's where it kind of certainly got ingrained in my mind. And so getting out of college, I actually was thinking I was going to go into the defense industry. I interned for a company called Rockwell Collins, and they do, communication systems and get a lot of government contracts with Lockheed Martin, Boeing, McDonnell Douglas. And we part of my internship was basically helping implement some communication systems for a Goonie bird, right? C-130. So my dad was a pilot. I had a ton of hours logged, even from the age of 3 years old with him. I was his co-pilot, which was really cool. And I was like, hey, that's my future. I love avionics and everything. And then out of nowhere, I played golf in college, like not for the team, just for fun. That's when I kind of started to pick up the game. And I was like, hey, someone's got to make golf clubs, right? And I have an engineering degree. There's got to be a job out there. So I Googled, golf engineering jobs. And the first one that came up was a junior designer for Adams Golf in Plano, Texas. And I'm like, Plano is basically where I grew up, high school in McKinney, but, my first house was in Plano. And I'm like, come on. So I put my name in the hat. And it turned out my mom had a mutual friend who ran HR there. So that was how I got my kind of sift through the crowd, if you may, for that job, and went in and interviewed. A week later, I got a call. I remember I was with a buddy having lunch, and I got the call. And I'm like, oh, I was like, that's the number. So I left the restaurant, and he could see me through the window, and I'm like fist pumping in the air. And he was more happy for me, or he was more happy because he knew that he was going to get free golf clubs.
A good reason to be happy.
Right.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I mean, from then on, it was just, I got really lucky. It wasn't like I grinded through and, clawed tooth and nail, whatever the expression is, to get into that space, right? And, everyone says you want to work in something that you don't feel like you're working a day in a life, right? It's like, hey, if you had all the money in the world, what would you do? And I can honestly say I'd work in golf and I'd work on design. So, that was back in 2010. So we're working on 15 years and change now. And from then on, it was just, man, I've met some unbelievable people. TaylorMade bought our company in 2013. And, I was offered a position to go to California. I turned it down. And in 15, I went to Wilson Sporting Goods in Chicago and started doing metal wood design. Really got my passion for putters. That started when Yes Golf came into the picture with Adams, but continue to kind of harness that design element in golf. And what's interesting when you look at Adams and Wilson, large companies, but the golf space itself, it's really small. At Adams, we had, at any given time, let's call it 6 designers. We had 2 industrial design guys. I remember we were lean, right? And with that comes more hats, right? You get exposed to the logistics, the go-to-market strategies, things that really weren't your job, but you're in those meetings, right? So, starting to shape this futuristic entrepreneurship in golf. And fast forward after Wilson, I was there for 5 years, met my wife, Lauren. We got pregnant, moved to Texas, and had our first son, Mickey. He's actually our logo, the silhouette, which is a great fun.
That was going to be one of my questions today.
Yeah, no, that was, he was putting and turned his hat around backwards, and drained a putt. And I took a video of it. And I was like, oh man, that's so cool. So I did an image trace silhouette. And when we were going through the grind of coming up with our logo, I was like, we got to do this. So, but anyway, yeah. So moved to Texas, got connected with Good Golf, unbelievable group of guys, all first class. From I caught on board. This was 2000. Oh boy, when was this? 2021, kind of around COVID time, honestly. And got to do some design work with them. I worked on their putters, and at that time, that was around the time that Justin had called, and I was teetering. It would have been a fun endeavor to pursue with them. And ultimately, I'm like, man, this is just a passion of both of ours with young kids that we're like, we have to see this through, right? Here we are. It's incredible. I have to like pinch myself. Nowadays, like since I launched to the world, if you may. Obviously, there's been a lot of work in the background, but starting in January when I met you, Cody, and we had our little 5x10 booth, at the PGA Show. It's just been like, man, drinking through a fire hose, and the buzz and the excitement. Like I said, I think pinch myself on what we've created, and that's just being head down, work, work, work. And it's crazy. Like you hear these podcasts. I listen to Gary Vee a lot, and people are like, I'm not being successful, or I'm not doing this and that's like, well, are you really working? Like you may say you're working, and like it's like you got to do it, and that's the exciting part of now we're seeing a little bit of the fruits of the labor. There's so much work left to do, but these mini victories, we'll touch on some of the milestones and some of the announcements actually today, depending on when we launch this one live. But
Yeah.
Some of that stuff is just so exciting. And like, that doesn't happen unless you've got a good product and a good vision. And, a tip of the hat to Justin. He's kept me focused. I'm very innovative, and, I'm like here. And it's like, hey, these are the tasks today. We got to get this, and this done. I'm like, okay. But no, we have an incredible partnership, and I'm very fortunate to have, started with a friendship, but, the business relationship is really strong, and it's exciting to see the growth.
Awesome. Yeah. So that's the division of labor. Like you are the inventor, and Justin's kind of like the business guy, because he was the entrepreneur, and you're the guy that knows how to put it all together.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. I mean, certainly it can be broken down way more granular than that. There's a lot of overlap in what Justin does. And in fact, it's funny. Like, I'm not a sales guy, to be honest. I know I can talk my way out into the product and get people excited about it, but we had some overlaps. There's one call, and I said something like, I can't remember the context, but Justin's like, man, you're getting good at this. I'm like, yeah. And he said something like, we're, the alloy that we're using, it's like a tungsten nickel composite, and like he went off, and I'm sitting there like, look at this, like, like that boy. Yeah. So
you guys have like the proud like brother moments, like
exactly.
Yeah. Well, let's hit on the let's you guys kind of alluded to the PGA show a couple of times, and we're all there together, and like that's where we all kind of connected and got to know each other, and it was a fantastic time. I mean, I was there just kind of wandering around. And every time, because like you guys kind of like acted as like my home base, because you guys are my buddies at the show, so I'd always like once I got tired of walking around, I got like 30,000 steps one day there. So like when I got tired of walking around, I'd come hang out with you guys. But the problem was, every time I wanted to come hang out with you guys, there was a line down the hallway there, whatever you want to call it, down the aisle at the booth. And like luckily there was a like a stage in front of you guys, so there was chairs, so I could sit and just kind of watch like how many people were interacting with you. And I don't know how you guys did that. Like from open to close, you were just talking. And I mean, you had to say the same thing probably a million times.
Oh yeah.
So tell us about, the experience of the PGA show. Cause I thought it was fantastic, but I could imagine being in your shoes, just how great it actually was.
It was wild. I mean, I think about it and I can't help but kind of smile, right? Like going into it, we literally on a Friday, so the Friday before the show, and we flew out on Monday, I grabbed Elliot from daycare and I drove to Dallas and pulled into Kevin's house. And we had a bunch of club heads, uncut, ungripped, just raw shafts. We had our weighted adapters. And we literally, the kids hung out, they played. And then when we put them down, we went into the garage and we put together, these were our pre-production samples.
Wow.
So we sat there till like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Just
you were bloodshot. I'm like, you just drove 4 hours with a 3-year-old. I'm like, hey, we gotta finish.
Just dead. And so we ended up putting these clubs together. The next day we went out to General Creek, where Kevin's at, and we shot the first like content, right? Or pictures for like the website and stuff. And so fast forward, that was Saturday. We arrived to Florida on Monday, and then Tuesday we set up the booth. We went to a demo day, which was a whole nother, like, I mean, for a golfer, it's like you're in a candy store. Like, it is just amazing. You see all the new stuff, people everywhere, incredible experience. We took the junior driver, our smallest driver, and we walked around. We hit it a few times, and so. But I'll tell you, this was wild. So we stop and get like a coffee and a breakfast sandwich, and we drive to the convention center. And so I think we got there at like 7:00. We had to walk like 2 miles to get into the convention center.
Yeah, it can't be understated how big that place was.
It's insane. It's massive. Insane. So we walk in there, and I don't think the doors opened until like 8. But at 7:30, we're sitting there turning the light on our booth, like pulling our stuff out, and people come in, and they're like, "Hey, tell me about this." So we pop up, we have a little couple conversations, and then before you know it, I sit there and I'm like, "Man, I'm getting really hungry." And I'm like, it's probably about lunchtime. Never even touched a sandwich. We had been nonstop talking to anywhere from like 5, sometimes 15 or 20 people in this tiny booth, like 5 by 10.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked down at my watch. It was 2:30. We hadn't stopped talking. We didn't sit down. We didn't eat. And I was like, I've got to go take 5 and just sit and like scarf some food down. So we took shifts in it. And my wife, Whitney, she was there, and like, luckily she was, because we would have just keeled over. I remember my back was like locking up at the end of the day. We left at like 7, and we finally just had to shut the light off. Right. Yeah. So that was on Thursday. Did the same thing again on Friday. So you think about, from a garage, putting clubs together, the following Friday, we're tearing our booth down, leaving. We went from, our initial production order was 250 sets. We moved it to over 3,500 production sets, and we went into 12 countries in 2.5 days. And we just kind of looked at each other, and we won. I don't know if you can see it, but right here we've got a little award thing. So we won the most innovative concept award for the show. Mm-hmm. And that piece was kind of like, such a surreal moment where we were like, we've worked countless hours, nights, weekends, like, going through 2 years of this. Is it going to work? Are people going to like it? And then when it was like one day after another, and the people that were coming up to us, and the partnerships we were just kind of starting to lay the groundwork on to winning the award, it was like, wow, we have something here. Like, it was all worth it. Right. So it was a gamble.
I realized I've had this back.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Like, I've had to pry open the metal like housing for the thing. I'm like, I'm taking this with me. Like, sorry, Orange County Convention Center. I didn't bend it too much, but yeah, I was like, we got to take this. And then Justin's got the QR code from the offsite inventor thing up there. Yeah.
Well, what was really cool for me was when you walk around, like, because there's, for people that weren't there, you guys had was it like the inventor area, right?
Yeah.
There's like there's X amount of people there. And when you walk through there, it's like you see all these, and I'm not like talking bad about any of these other companies that were there, like, because they all had some fun, cool stuff. But if you're someone that's like, for me, like, I don't like a lot of like just stuff that I don't really need. Like, I mean, it wasn't junk. I'm not talking bad, but it's like, they were all things that would be like kind of nice to have. It's like, oh, that would be cool. Like, if I had that, but like looking like at the products, it's like, well, if I have a kid, they need what you guys have, right? Like that's my look at it. Like, the rest, yeah, it's cool, but like, you guys are providing something that parents need for their kids if they want to play golf. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, Kevin. So finish what you're about to say.
Not at all. I was actually touching on the offsite element there, because, like I said, we had 5 by 10, and that gets absorbed really quickly. Especially, we had a really cool display that had LED lights. Justin kind of touched on it. One thing he forgot to mention was we were in this frantic, like we're prepped, ready to go. And I think somebody spilled coffee on the front of it.
No,
So we
they
had
did.
to flip it. We had to flip it the other way. Thank goodness it was double-sided. So I was like, what? We got there
Black
like, what
coffee
is
all across
that?
it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So it was like the white banner thing. That's
Yes. The illuminated screen.
oh, okay, okay. So for you guys
Yeah.
that aren't like watching, because Justin's got some club heads covers behind him. Their logo is like red, white, and blue, and gray and black, right? Those are like kind of like the colors.
Yeah.
And like I feel like you're like big flag. So like in my mind, when you said spilled coffee, because like white is kind of like your big like part of your is like your main color. Like
Yeah.
black coffee on the white thing. I was like, oh my god, no way.
It was not. It was not ideal. Yeah.
We have on our like on our Instagram, right? We had a couple of posts from their UpSwing Golf clubs, and you'll if anybody's like listening and they're like, all right, I got to look this up. The background is 10 foot wide, right? And it's probably what 8 feet tall.
8 feet. Yeah.
You know, like we tried to we actually spent quite a bit of time designing this thing with this company. And yeah, we showed up. I think it was day 2. And we show up and we flipped the light on. And I don't know if like the cleaning crew or somebody, but I mean the whole white background, just this like somebody just doused coffee on it. So it was a bit of a uh-oh moment, and we had to very quickly. I mean, people were already coming in the doors for the next day, and we're flipping this thing around and shoving it back, and it was fun. It's something memorable for sure.
So like we alluded to, I mean, you guys had. Did you keep track of? Was there a way to keep track of how many people actually came to the booth, or like I remember you had like scan QR codes, but like I mean, you guys had to have thousands of people that come by your booth.
We've got somewhere on my desk. Oh, here it is. On my
the
desk,
scan, that's interesting. Like the scan numbers were, 200 to 300, but it's not you scanned everyone, right? So I think, look at that. There you go. Yeah.
It was.
And those are the scan numbers. So you got Justin's holding up like multiple pages of like these scan. It's like for you guys that haven't been to the PGA show, they're listening. You walk around with a lanyard, and it's got a QR code on it. And what companies and what booths will do, or business companies will do when you walk up, they just scan a QR code, so that way they can take your contact information, so they can like email you and things like that. And also so that way you as a participant or as someone that's walking around the show can remember where you went, because there's I don't even know, there's probably a million booths in there, but with so many people that came up to your booth, like what would you say, because I want to kind of get into like the problem you guys saw and are solving here with these kid clubs, but like what, since we're kind of talking about the PGA show right now, like what were people coming up and asking you? I feel like there was probably one question or a couple questions that you heard over and over again, besides just like, hey, what is this?
Well, I mean, you're right. I mean, there was kind of like a theme, if you will. It was, hey, what is this? And then, because we had all of our club heads out, so you could see them, and most people didn't realize they were kids clubs, because we made them to where they don't look like kids clubs.
Correct.
And so when they realize, like, wait a minute, these are for kids, and then and they adjust, because we had the loose shaft sitting out there with our adapters and all that. But ultimately, they were kind of going, okay, so you've got golf clubs that grow. What else is different about them? And then we start talking about the premium nature of the 460cc titanium driver. We've got hot metal injected in it. UST Mamiya is a really high-end shaft manufacturer. They did all of our shafts for kids. The rest of our metals, irons, putter, it's all 431 cast stainless with PVD coated. So you start getting into it, and keep in mind the PGA show is closed to the public until like Friday afternoon. So these are all golf industry folks. So they're club pros, or they work for apparel companies, or you name it, right? They all kind of know this stuff. And we start kind of explaining this, you can start seeing the light bulbs going off. And then, the amount of folks that came over that ran junior programs, or they were, a coach, and they're like, you go into a stock room at a golf course, and they've got 400 various clubs, from, Uncle Dave's cut down club, or Grandpa Phil's, club that they threw a shaft on that's way too heavy. So they start kind of conceptualizing, all right, this fits a demand even outside of like the kids needing the clubs. So all the golf courses and that, where they have these junior programs, and some of them were coming up and they're like, we've got 200 kids, like we need 50 sets of these, and we can just buy 50 sets and then the shafts to grow them up. So now really we have 150, sets. So it was really interesting, which is actually a business model. Like, speaking about, being a startup and nimble and entrepreneurial, that was a whole demand that we didn't anticipate. And now we're setting up golf courses all over North America. Literally, we signed a big deal with PGA Canada to be their official partner for junior golf clubs. And so part of this is not only helping stock the pro shops, but if they've got, 50 kids or 20 kids, they want the right tools for them, because at that point they're trying to create engagement. Well, you do that through a child when they're successful, right? And they're having fun with it. So it was just it was interesting just how the conversations kind of evolved, and then you had other manufacturers or shaft suppliers, and they're going, wait a minute, this is cool, can we have a conversation? And so it was incredible. I mean, Kevin's been there 12, 14 times, something like that. And that was my first time.
13th show. Yeah.
So I was just like, wow. I mean, so much so we got there extra early on Friday so we could actually walk the floor for the first time.
Yeah. I got a question about that. So because we never talked about this one before. So let's say I'm running like a kids clinic at a club.
Yeah.
And what you're basically saying is, like, what if I had like 20 kids in like different age groups, for example? So you could like ship out like 20 sets of clubs, and then you're going to send out, like another 20 set of like shafts for like the next age group. Like, so is that kind of what's happening? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Like, so that way, like if you're someone listening and you want to like set a clinic up, it's like you just need 20 sets, and then you're going to send them like 3 more adjustable like shafts, so that way they can set up each age group and kind of reuse the clubs for each kids that comes. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah.
I think the beauty of it is, you're teaching pro, you get, let's call it 20 kids or 200 kids, right? Well, you'd send out the email from all the registered kids, right? And it's like, hey, they would get ahead and be like, submit your child's age and height, right? Or some simple, static measurement. And like, okay, I've got, of these 20 kids, I've got 7 that are, 6 and under, and I've got, 3 XYZ, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, you can pre-prep the bags, right? With, all you do is swap the heads out from the previous camp and say, okay, I've got these sets set up for these kids. And there's a prep, I guess, luxury there for the teachers. And furthermore, it gives the parents like the alleviation of like, man, I'd like to go buy a set real quick off of eBay, or go to, your local, whatever, mom and pop golf shop for a hand-me-down. Like, it gives a lot of luxuries to where like, hey, maybe my kid, I don't know if he's going to like it. They can go to the camp with the set up clubs and like, what, he loves it. Great. And, we've set up kind of like codes for those guys as well to sell something on site. Right. So it's like a nice way to touch in into the game without the expense. I told this to Justin, actually. My son Mickey, he just started skating, playing ice hockey, and one of the things that Dallas Stars does really well is called the Little Rookies program. They give them full equipment, head to toe, without the skates, mind you, but they got the rentals, and it's a 4-week deal, and they are decked out. I mean, we were ripping tags off of this equipment. It's brand new.
Wow.
And if you like it, they say, hey, you can buy the equipment. If you don't, no harm, no foul, you give it back, and it recycles to the next kids, right? And like, that was like way after this was in when was this? Right before the PGA show, actually. But we had already, it wasn't like the inspiration. It was just like, man, like this is clearly a recipe for kids to get into hockey, get into golf, like whatever, and that's, the barrier of entry from a financial perspective is such an attraction to parents, because that's like, God, like hockey's really expensive. Golf is really expensive. It's like, hey, you can tiptoe into it a little bit more. And then, hey, they're really liking it. Then you integrate more clubs, longer length, all these nuances, right? And, and that's the exciting part of solving the problem that, Justin and I developed.
And I think kind of beyond that, to kind of further explain or answer your question, like if they have 20 kids, they don't need 20 sets of golf clubs.
Right.
Maybe
Mhm.
they're buying like 5 sets because, like, say our 4-piece set, right? Driver, 5 hybrid, an iron, and a putter. So an 8 iron and a putter. Well, what they'll do is they'll buy the 5 sets of clubs, and then they'll buy the JV and the varsity linked shafts as well.
Hmm.
Because most times they don't have all the kids going at once. They'll have like the little kids
Right.
in the morning, and then they graduate to, the middle grade, and then it's up to, junior high, high school. So then what all they have to do is they might even have like these kids over here, the juniors are on the driving range working on a driver. Well, maybe the 12-year-olds are on the putting green. So you can take those clubs and just swap out the shafts, and now every kid
Mhm.
in the program has the appropriate height.
See, that's
And
so great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so now like the barrier to entry for that becomes much lower because now they don't need 20 sets of clubs. They just need 5.
Yep. That's right.
And furthermore, they do stations, right? I don't know how much junior camps, like I've gone to way more than I ever thought I would in the last 6 months for research, right? But you look at them, they have stations, they have chipping, they have putting, kind of what echo from long drive,
Drive,
chip and
chip, and
putt,
putt.
right? So
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And it's like you could get away with by 3 sets, and like rotate, like so from a fitting or a teaching perspective, there's another lower entry to giving these kids, the quality, right? Justin touched on the quality. Not to knock, other brands that use aluminum, but like there's not, a performance, like a high performance in this product, right? What we're doing is we're taking titanium in our driver, right? You're gonna get the full experience that any adult would, mind you, the swing speeds are obviously different, but and furthermore, the head is large. It's a 460cc head in our driver. That's again what we all play with.
Oh, it is.
The
Okay.
the USGA restricts the volume of a golf club, a driver, to 460 cubic centimeters plus or minus 10. So really, you could go up to 470. But ultimately, we're like, well, we're maxing out the driver head, and I was like, I never understood. It never made sense to me why some of the junior brands would have like a cute little, almost like a driver we would play back in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
Where it's
I
like
like the
that all
Callaway steelhead.
persimmon. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Hey,
I'm
I
like, why do
still
you
have a
do that?
steelhead in my bag. I've got the 5 wood. I cannot get rid of it.
Dude, they
And that
sound
thing is
great.
tiny. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Little ting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
Well,
it.
and I'm glad you hit on that because what you guys have, and like when you first look at them, like they really catch the eye because like they don't look like chintzy little kids clubs. They look like real golf clubs. They're, because
Mhm.
I, as a golfer, like, I like the way my clubs look, right? Like I think we all do, whether
Yeah.
we want to realize it or not. It's like I don't care, the days of just thinking like I only care about how it performs. Like no, we also want it to look cool too. So that's definitely what you guys have created. And like I mean, they're black, right? I mean the irons are black. Like it's all like really sleek and cool.
Yeah, I knew it. That's why I pulled the club out of the bag there. This has got the shrink wrap on it, so there's probably a lot of reflectivity. But I mean, yeah, we definitely spared no expense on that. We got a cool little skirt decal there, and no, it's been cool. And like to be perfectly honest, industrial design was not my strong suit. It was more on just the rudimentary basic design to get the center of gravity, mass properties, the volume, all that good stuff that I worry about. And then had to play the hat of industrial design. So I guess tip of the cap to the guys I worked with in the past that kind of, organically gave me some of that power. But yeah, I mean, could it be dumbed down for sure? But that's the exciting part, right? It's
Yeah.
like a swag and like, hey, look and see what's in my bag kind of thing. And for sure, it's definitely been a nice design element to include outside just the performance, right?
And I think that's so one more thing about the PGA show is there was one of my favorite parts was when you guys got up there and did your pitch, like that kind of
Yeah,
it was like a Shark Tank type thing,
It
right?
was,
Like you
yeah.
got up there and you had a
yeah,
panel.
yeah.
Yeah. And I remember watching a couple other brands go up there and when they were finished with their pitch, there would be like some ho-hums. They'd be like, well, like I think you could do this or do that. And I remember when you guys were done with yours, they were like, just kind of pause for a second, like, man, these things look nice. And then you guys told them how much they cost. And they're like, that's it. and they were just kind of like blown away. And I feel like they like wanted to, like, you know, if it was like the Shark Tank billionaires that are, you know, Mark Cuban on the other side, he would have been throwing money at you, like, you know, millions and millions of dollars. So like, you know, would you kind of just like summarize like what that was like to get up there
Yeah.
and do that, and what their reaction was to you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it it was pretty interesting, right? So we talked about it. This was a piece of us being so busy. We basically got a knock, and they were like, "Hey, you guys are on next." And then Kevin and I were like, "Oh, we got to talk about like what's our game plan, right?"
Mhm.
Yeah.
So we're like, "Well, we've kind of been doing it all week, so let's go up there and So Kevin had the clubs, and he was kind of going through a real life exercise of like how you can unscrew the iron head and insert the longer shaft, etc. And so we kind of had this little display, and I mean, there was not much room, right? Like there was,
Yeah, it
I
was
think we
small.
maybe had a little tiny table in front of them.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of went through, and honestly, it was kind of a blur. As I was glad it got recorded, because I could walk back and they're like, how did we actually do? But
Yeah.
their response was pretty awesome in a sense where, they were very complimentary in like the solving the problem, right? Creating a price point that's accessible and can grow the game of golf. And then they loved like the design work and the marketability of, UpSwing, how it's, a descriptive name, like you're upswinging clubs. You can swing with them from the time you're, 3 or 4 years old. I mean, it's off of height, obviously, but up to 5'6". Like you can have one set of golf clubs so it was really interesting. And they really, some of the questions were like, do you guys need investors, or like
Yeah,
they
I was like
like,
3 out of 4, I think, said that, right?
yeah,
And like to your point, Cody, like the previous entries, right? They were giving critiques, right? And as an inventor, like you definitely want that,
yeah,
right? Um, so when they went up, I'm like expecting, hey, maybe do this, maybe do that, and it was zero of that. It was just like,
Mhm.
do you guys need investors? And then Justin mentioned all of them gave applaud to the look and the aesthetics. So, that was my biggest kind of gratitude towards what they had said, and
yeah,
it was cool. It was so cool, and it's funny. So Justin, you'd mentioned when he mentioned that it was like, man, it's 2:30. I need to disappear. I gotta go eat. I gotta do a lap, right? Well, in that time, the gal that was running the inventor, she came up to Whitney, Justin's wife, and I, and she's like, hey guys, just by the way, you won the most innovative product. I'm like, what? Sorry, excuse me. And I'm looking like, where's Justin? Where's Justin? And when he's like, oh, he took a lap. I'm like, oh my God. So he comes back and I'm like just grinning. And he's like, what happened? I'm like, we just won. He's like, get the, and I'm like, oh, we just gave a big hug and like, high five. And like, it was so cool. Like it really did, put in perspective all the work that we had done to get to that point. It was very gratifying for sure.
and Kevin, if you remember, like going into it, I was like, how cool would it be, like if we won some type of recognition
Yeah,
award, like
yeah, I
that would
remember.
be like a benchmark of success. And then, yeah, I'm like walking back, and I just see him, and I'm like, what's up? And then he told me, and I was like, oh, we did it.
Yeah,
Like this
yeah,
is
yeah,
it was pretty surreal. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm still grinning from it.
I
yeah.
was very happy for you guys. I mean, that whole experience was great, and I think we got to give a huge shout out to Whitney, to your wife, because she worked her
Yeah.
ass off. I bet you owed her a bunch of like chores around the house or something, because I don't, she had to work her ass off
Oh
at that
my
show
God.
too.
Yeah.
I I have a hilarious Whitney story that it'll never be put to rest. We're so during the days, right? It was a 3-day deal, well, 2.5 if you count the half Friday, but we had our routine. We wake up, run to Starbucks, and get our booth set up, and off we went, right? And then furthermore, we would go to Cava's at night, the little Mexican
Yeah,
place
I
out
went.
there.
I went
So
with you
good.
guys. It was
Yeah, yeah,
good.
yeah.
This is good.
That place was awesome. So I think it was Friday, maybe Thursday, Friday, I can't remember. But we went to Starbucks, and I'm like the double smoked bacon sandwich guy, and I think Whitney and Justin got the just a sausage egg, and I'm dishing out, or no, I think Whitney or you went in to Justin to get the goods, if you may, and came back, and distribute the bags. I'm in the driver's seat, and we're halfway to the show on iDrive or whatever, and Whitney's in the back and like, well, this isn't what I ordered, but boy, it's good. And I'm like in this puzzled look, and I look in my bag, and I'm like looking at this sausage. I'm like, you
She deserved it.
She
She
ate my
deserved it.
sandwich. I'm like, oh, all right. Well, that's a little joke we'll have forever.
Yeah.
But
I mean, she worked so hard. She deserved it.
she
So
did. She deserved
had to
it.
suck that up.
Yeah.
So
That's right.
we were flying out there, and I had like we had a little pamphlet, basically a one pager that we set on the booth. So she's like, all right, you know, like she's in sales, and she's obviously really good, you know, talking to people. So on the flights there, I hand her this pamphlet, and she's like, all right, give me the walkthrough on it, you know? And so I'm getting like into the details. Obviously she knows the concept, she knows the clubs, but now she's like getting into specifics on what kind of materials we have, you know, like our patented adapter, what the benefits of for the adapter and how it maintains swing weight as the clubs grow, like really getting granular. And I remember a couple of times just kind of like in the middle of a conversation, and I could hear her right next to me, and like Kevin's on the other side, and we're all just like, you know, speaking to the masses. And I was like, man, she is freaking killing it. Like, just pick it up. And yeah, we took a nice vacation for a thank you shortly after that. Just took a couple of days, no kids, and got away, recharged. And so yeah, and then she, you know, we did another one too in Texas, like just to check out kind of a more of a, I would say like a regional or local type deal, just to see if it was. And she was just right there again, wearing UpSwing stuff. Just, you know, she does a great job of like getting the interest. And then when it kind of passes like the engineering threshold, she's like, let me go get the club designer, or, you know, let me go get the, She would kind of lead us, you know, set the stage. But yeah, she deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah.
Like, so what's really, I mean, such a great reference. And Justin and I both have incredible wives. My wife, Lauren, she also has a very great career. She's a national rep for a liquor spirits brand. And, you know, something that they like, if you went through the entrepreneurial, you know, crash course, they don't really go into those nuances of the sacrifices that, frankly, I didn't really ask Lauren, you know, hey, I'm going to start a company. I don't know how it's going to go. And there's investments, not just financial, but time. Right.
Yeah,
and
a lot of time.
And if the meeting doesn't happen, it sacrifices a potential deal with a retailer or a customer overseas. And, you know, and Justin and, you know, we had discussions of like, man, we have to kind of just make sure we're cognizant of being good fathers, good husbands to our families. You know, I mean, like if there's an entrepreneur that's teetering and you don't have a family, you have no excuses. Like, get to work, right?
Yeah.
But you know, you put together those elements of, you know, I have a 5, 4, and 18-month-old. Justin's got 2 young kids himself, and it's like you look at all of those challenges, and it's juggling so many things, and to switch gears. And, you know, let's say we had, you know, I would say a bad day, but maybe there's tension and panic of like, oh man, we got to get this done, or our stuff doesn't land in time, or, you know, a deal isn't closed. And it's like, well, then my son's throwing up and whatever. And it's like, I have to choose, like, and it's like, you can't, that's a tough decision to make. Like, you know, but ultimately, you know, I think so far we've balanced it quite well. You know, I'd say there's definitely been some arguments, but
I mean, it's the understanding, right? I mean, it's like, okay, like here's the big picture, right? Like we're all making sacrifices, and I would argue that they're probably making the hardest sacrifice, right? And you know, Whitney's incredibly successful, and she's a property and casualty broker for big business, and so she travels around. And I remember a couple of weeks ago, Kevin and I had a pretty critical meeting, and it just so happened that her car went into limp mode, and so we had to take it into the dealer, right? So it wouldn't accelerate past like 40 miles an hour. So we actually had to tow it from the member guest in Tulsa back to Oklahoma City, and they didn't have a loaner ready for us. And she had a meeting that she had to go to. We had one car, and I was just like, hey, I've got to go. Like, I'm sorry. And so she had to reschedule her meeting. So that the sacrifices that they make, like we couldn't do it, without them. Right.
Yeah.
And it's definitely on the tough days, they're the support behind it and all that. It's just, it's great. I mean, I think we all have, a good head on our shoulders of like what it's going to take to make an impact and like get these things to kids across the world. And it's like, I mean, it's a big driver. Like, we want to change the way of junior golf and give kids these incredible clubs that we didn't have. If I would have had it, that I don't know if I'd be any better at golf, probably not, but I probably would have enjoyed it a lot more as a kid.
So as we kind of like head towards the end here, I think what you guys are talking about is basically the foundation of why you created this brand, right? It's because as parents, you have to like kind of make a sacrifice especially if you want your kid to play a sport like golf, right? Like, a lot of time, the financial part of it. So like, obviously when you guys were creating this, you saw that was going to be something for parents, because you guys are parents. You saw that, hey, golf clubs are expensive. There's a host of issues that come along with a kid learning how to play the game. One of which being, when you get new clubs every couple of years, you got to relearn the club. I mean, me personally, I just got a new driver. I went from a TSI 3 to a TSR 2, which with the Titleist models, like the 2 is supposed to be easier to hit. I got to learn how to re-hit that thing. Like, I can't hit it where I hit it like dog shit. Right. So you guys are solving these problems. So I kind of want to just like, kind of, as we wrap up here, just like kind of get us into like the nitty gritty of what happens when someone like lands on your website, when they say, hey, like I'm interested in this, like these sound like a really cool product. What's like step one? Like, what happens after they buy their first set of clubs, then when their kid outgrows them, what's their next step? And why is that the way they should go? And how those are going to make it more enjoyable for the kid, more cost efficient for the parent, and all those things that are going to make their experience better.
Well, I mean, we essentially, we have 3 different entry points. So we have UpSwing Junior, Junior Varsity, and Varsity. So it's a 4-piece, a 7-piece, or an 11-piece. So they can start at any level. But what we've done is we created what we call growth kits. So just let's talk about the normal progression, right? So for my son, like, this is actually his set. He's got the 4-piece right here. When he outgrows that, so you can get it on our website right now. We have some really exciting things that are coming in the very, very near future that will be stay tuned. So we'll have some big announcements. But when, let's say, Elliot outgrows that, we send a growth kit. So you can buy a growth kit through our website. And what that is now these 4 club heads, we send the shafts for junior varsity for the original 4 club heads. And then we add 3 clubs to the bag to now make it a 7-piece. So the thought process behind this is, one, to your point, you're learning a new driver, right? So we start our, kids with the drivers in their first set. If they can learn how to drive, the golf ball, if they get comfortable standing over their putter, these are the things that really can shape the round of golf for a child. So if we can keep them comfortable and familiar with the clubs, we can help increase their confidence, right? When you increase the confidence, are we going to increase engagement, keep them in a lifelong sport? And so we do the same thing from a 7-piece up to an 11-piece, the varsity. So we'd send in 7 shafts now at the varsity length for the 7 clubs in the bag, and we add 4 more assembled clubs to that bag. Furthermore, let's say, like, perfect example, my son's Elliot's 4, and I have a daughter that's just turned 2. So let's say Elliot down the road, he kind of fizzles out, doesn't want to play, but maybe she's got it. The other piece to this is you can club them right back down for the next generation golfer, right? Mm-hmm. Or your brother's kid is now in the age, and my kid grew out of it, so now you can re-gift it. So we kept this durability piece to it as well, and that's a big reason why we put the type of quality materials behind this. Is, we're not out here trying to, get every single, we call them a widget in sales. Like, what else can you sell? What else can you give them? We'd love to see, like Kevin's entire, group, all three of them play with a set of clubs and just size them up and down, take one kid to the course one day and the next day, take the other one, and we've all got it. So the confidence piece, staying familiar when you're standing over the ball, looking at the same club head, it does breed a lot of confidence and enjoyment in the game. And I mean, Kevin and I we're golf fanatics. We love it. We don't get to play golf nearly as much as we used to. Been a little busy, but how fun is it going to be to have, 20 years from now, our kids, we go out, once a month or something, or, some family, tradition where we all go play golf together, something like that. I mean, that's kind of the stuff that makes us pretty excited.
Yeah. So when they do let's say, when someone outgrows, what do? They just log back in. They just say, hey, I'm ready for the next step. And you guys are like, cool, here you go. Is that pretty much how it goes? I mean, it's all on the website. So it's all pretty, we try to make it pretty self-explanatory. And we've done it we've got basically a page that talks about sizing. So we've got a size chart. It's based off of height. Kevin's obviously engineered a lot more, on how you typically would, fit a golfer. It's wrist to floor, but he's figured out a way where he's got enough overlap in the size chart. So basically when you're, and I mean, I was with a kid last week who's going to Worlds, and he's going to be using our stuff, and he wanted to hit him. Well, his actual height, he was kind of right on the cusp from our JV or junior varsity and our varsity set. And so the kids kind of can tell, right? Is it too short? Is it too long? So you can see it, but on our website, we've made it super easy. So if you have a parent, if somebody's listening out there, like, well, when do I know? We've got it just blasted right there on the site. So, kind of the height ranges and when they're about to transition into the next, growth kit and can level up. And then you just go on, put it in the cart, order it, ships right to your front door. Yeah. That simplicity and like make it, cause I don't have kids, but I can just imagine how time consuming everything is. And like, just, it's one less thing off of the parent's plate, to just log in there and be like, okay, they're ready for the next one. Cool. I don't have to sit here and research for the next set of clubs. I don't have to do this and do that. I can just, all right, cool. These already work for them. I can just log in, send me my next round. And, I'm thinking also from like the financial point of it, right? They have a few years, like, to use the clubs they purchased, and they don't have to buy any more for a couple of years. Like they get a little break and having to spend a ton of money all the time, because golf is a very expensive sport. I know that was something you guys kind of put, in the forefront of your minds too, is like, I think it's what you said at the beginning, like, we're going to make a quality product, but it's not going to be where someone's buying a brand new set of Titleist irons every year, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And to the point, to touch on what Justin had mentioned, when we were doing our market research, there's a lot of new junior golf brands, right? And you look at some of the let's call it the programs that they implement in the past, and until still today, there's nothing that exists that you can physically do this at your own home, right? They have some, hey, send them back, we'll reshaft them, flip them if you may, but that kid's now out of set. Depending on the backlog, it could be up to 6 to 8 weeks. And I'd say that's pretty conservative. It could likely be longer. And so that's the beauty of like, the two things, right, that are inevitable is they will grow, and we don't know how fast, right? And it's like, if they hit that growth spurt and they grow 6 inches in 2 weeks, it's like, well, here are the shafts to supplement that growth, and you get it right away. You get them at your doorstep. They pop the heads off, pop them back on, and he's off and running with, the time it takes to do 4 clubs. We've timed as about 2.5 minutes to get used to it. So, and it's really fast, right? So, and that, again, solves the problem, right? And any entrepreneur says, before you go into any new product and business, you do your search, make sure you're free to operate, and does it solve a problem? And we were both check both boxes, right? As we went into this. So it's it's exciting. There's so much work to do. We'll organically blend and flow and adapt with the market response. And my exciting part, getting through this wave of our first launch is now, Justin said the widgets, right? We're not gonna flood the market, but we're definitely continuing to invest our time into future products and how we get better, right? And that's the exciting thing. One thing we didn't touch on, which is really exciting, is while Justin and I went to our factory, this was back in March. Geez, when was that? April? Golly. And we had them perform Canon testing. And for those of you that don't know, the criteria for Canon testing for a standard, adult driver, if you may, is they have it at 45 meters per second, which is a little over 100 miles an hour, about 105. And it has to sustain 3,000 hits without getting more than half a degree of deflection and bulge and roll. So we said, hey, do that on our heads, right? We want to make sure we check that box, and we passed. Yeah.
So we'll kind of wrap up here. I want to ask you just one more thing. Like, so, as someone from the outside looking in, like if a parent is looking to purchase clubs for a kid and they've never done it before, maybe they didn't even play golf themselves, right? Because I think golf is more popular now than it's ever been. So like, we're talking, maybe there's a parent out there that the kids are getting into golf because like Bryson DeChambeau's on YouTube and they're like, oh, Bryson's so cool. Like I want to play golf now. What are the unforeseen things that you guys have helped them solve that they would have no idea when they're getting their kid into like a set of clubs, that you guys like making it so much easier for them, and why this product is like so much easier to get their kid into golf?
I mean, the blatantly obvious piece of that is that if you don't know anything about golf, one, you know that this is a quality brand, and we're very, very premium on our materials and all that. And we've reduced the price point strategically to open the doors for said, parents looking to get in. But we've kind of helped safeguard the investment as much as we possibly can, right? So let's say, your child gets into it and you love it. But to Kevin's point, over the winter months, they grew 6 inches. Well, now you're not having to buy an entire new set at a premium, price tag. Now you're adding to and adding clubs to the bag and length to the original. So you're safeguarding some of that investment, and you're doing it with a small business that truly cares about the kids. And so I think that, like Kevin said, there's tons of different avenues and things that we're still discovering that are benefits, but with the durability testing that we do, that we have completed with Canon testing, and the quality of the materials. And I mean, we're trying to keep it to where it's about the kid, it's about the parents, but most importantly, go create some memories. Like, go get out. It's a healthy sport to play. You get outside, you're getting away from a TV or a, video game type of thing, and you're creating lifelong memories. And so, we just really want to be a part of that.
Awesome. I mean, I love what you guys are doing. I mean, it can't be understated, like how cool it was watching what happened at the PGA show. Cause like, I feel like I got to be there kind of like at the like day, like the launch, I guess, was kind of like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like PGA Show was like, was your Tiger Woods Hello World moment, kind of thing. And it was really cool to watch you guys do that and to see where you guys are going. And did you guys have some announcements that you wanted to plug on here? I think this podcast will probably come out within a week. Today is July 1st. So just for a timestamp here on when we recorded this, if there's anything you guys want to plug here real quick before we sign off.
Yeah. There's a couple that we can't fully disclose, but I can give some hype behind it. We've got a couple of really, really big things that we'll be announcing on our social channels, our website. We have shot basically we got selected from the PGA Show based on the success of UpSwing. They've done a documentary on us that's going to actually air in. That's it's a big deal. 121 million households starting in August. So we've
Whoa.
already shot that. So we did that a couple weeks back. We've already launched our announcement in partnership with PGA of Canada. That was a huge thing we're extremely excited about. You know, Kevin was born in Canada. I played hockey in Canada. So that was pretty surreal. And then we've got what's going to launch today. There is a Jerry Carey. He's the TikTok caddy. So we've gone in a partnership with him, and he's just great for the game. He focuses on kids, and by way of his platform and what he's doing, we're going to be able to start giving back and donating some clubs and some sets through kind of his channels as we kind of see fit, and kind of promoting the game of junior golf. So we got a handful of other partnerships that are right now kind of at the 5 or 10 yard line that we're discussing, and some really good opportunities in the retail space, some big boxes. So stay tuned with that. We got some really we're gonna shake it up in regards to the retail space with some of the ways we're able to deliver these clubs. So can't get into the details, but stay tuned, because it's gonna change things quite a bit. Very exciting. So
Awesome. You got anything you want to add, Kevin, before we sign off?
No, I just realized we referenced the website, I think 4 different times, but it's obvious to us, but just as a call to action, it is www.upswinggolf.com. So yeah, check it out. Got questions, send us the email at info@upswinggolf.com, and yeah, join us, because it's exciting. We're really so pumped to what we got coming here.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. This was a lot of fun. I hope everyone out there, especially if you have kids or you plan on having kids and you haven't realized like what's going to go into getting your kids into the game, these guys are here to make it much easier for you. So thanks again for coming on, guys. Really appreciate it. It was fun.
Thanks, Cody.
Thank you, Cody.
Thank you very much.